isolation, and contact tracing. In the event that we just went through, unfortunately, as we started, we were very capable of doing that. When the initial cases all came from China, all the way through January, all the way through to the end of February, we were able to identify cases early, the first 14, do the contacts, do the contact tracing, over 800 contacts. We identified that 2 of those contacts were actually infected. We were able to isolate them. We were able to contain the outbreak. We're about to enter a new phase of this where we're going back to containment. And mitigation is going to continue, as Dr. Birx and others have said. Some of the things that we've learned to do, we're going to continue. But the major thrust of how we're going to control and make sure that we continue to keep this nation open is early case recognition, isolation, and contact tracing. That's the fundamentals of public health. That's what we're going to do. You see, we have very good surveillance systems that are going to help us. As we see these cases sporadically across the country, we've got to jump on them with early diagnosis, isolation, and contact tracing. That's what CDC is going to continue to help build that capacity in the states across this nation.
So, Mr. President, just follow on.
And one other thing, because we discussed this today with the senators, we had the congressmen and women. There'll be some areas of our country, wide open plains, wide open spaces, with not that many people, relatively speaking, where you're not going to have to do that. Senators were saying there is no reason to do that in certain states and certain areas where you have the wide open. In other cases, we will be doing that. So we'll be following it. Largely that also will be a function of governors. They know their states. So largely that's going to be a function of the governors. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned I think you used the term clear scientific benchmarks on testing. And the main periscope that I think you guys are talking about is the ILL syndromic as well as the surveillance and the sentinel testing. Are you opening things up then without doing, I just want to be clear, are you opening things up without doing widespread testing? Is that because you don't have the capacity or you don't think it's necessary?
We do have the capacity, but you have states without any problem. You have states with few cases, and those few cases have healed. You have states with very little death, relatively speaking. As I said, 1 is too many, but you have states with very little, and frankly, they're at a point where they have almost nothing. So this is a much different case than a New York or New Jersey, where they're going through, frankly, they go through hell. And if you look at New York, I'm looking at bed count, because you have to look at bed count, and it's really dropped. We built the Javits Center with 2,900 beds, and it was, I mean, they built it in 4 days. They did an incredible job, the Army Corps of Engineers. It was not used very much. We sent the hospital ship in to New York Harbor, and it was not used. Then we went COVID, and it still was not used very much because the bed count has gone way down, way down.
When do you see yourself getting back to campaigning? I mean,
this is not campaigning. I want to make the country better. I don't care about campaigning. This is about making our country better. I think this team has been incredible. Whether it's Army Corps of Engineers, whether it's FEMA. One thing that happened on the call today that I noticed more than anything is Pete Gaynor. So many governors said, I want to thank you. Pete Gaynor called up. They had tornadoes in a big part of our country this week, and they were all saying that he has been unbelievable. They called one after another. They were thanking us for, that's FEMA, and they were thanking us. No, I want to heal this country. This is a war. We've been through a war. We have an invisible as opposed to a visible enemy. I think in many ways the invisible enemy is much more dangerous, is much tougher. In the G7 today, I went through country after country. We were there. We all get along great. Angela Merkel and Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister of Japan, and all of them. And their countries have been devastated by this. Their economies have been devastated by this. 184 countries all over the world. And we went through one after another. And I was angry because it should have been told to us. It should have been told to us early. It should have been told to us a lot sooner. People knew it was happening, and people didn't want to talk about it. I don't know why, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. But people should have. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying people should have told us about this. They should have told the rest of the world too. When I looked at Germany talking today, when I looked at France talking today, the European Union was there represented. That represents a lot of countries. Their economies have been devastated, but they're going to build them back. But we're gonna build this economy back bigger, better, stronger than ever before. You watch, and we have stimulus, and we're gonna do things, whether it's infrastructure, which we would like to be able to do, our roads, our tunnels, our highways, our bridges need help. You know, a lot of you have reported on our bridges. A lot of bridges are in bad shape. They should have been fixed 25 years ago, and they're still standing. They have to be fixed. So hopefully we'll get an infrastructure bill. The good news is the interest rate is close to zero. And zero interest is a good thing when it comes to rebuilding your infrastructure and your country back. Please, in the back.
Mr. President, walk us through the calendar, if you would. When it comes to Memorial Day or even Pentecost in May, you've got July 4th, Labor Day weekend. What would you anticipate at each of those milestones?
Well, I don't like to anticipate because you have a couple of states that are in difficulty, that have made a lot of progress, by the way, and they're either here or they're heading down. But, so I'm not going to go in terms of dates, but I think we're going very quickly now. I really believe. I think we're going to have a lot of states open relatively soon. We're beating the date. I set a date of May 1st, and, you know, here we are. And I think you're going to have some nice surprises over the next few days, and that'll be before. And that's big stuff. Some of those states are big. They're big stuff. They're very important states. And it's going to be added on. And as we look, I don't want anyone coming back that isn't in position to come back. The last thing we want is for, let's say, a New York to come back too soon, or a New Jersey to come back too soon. We want them to come back when they're ready. But they're really heading in a good direction. And I think it'll be much faster than people think. I think it'll be quicker, but it's got to be safe. Yeah, please, Rebecca.
Thank you. Has the government